This is Artemis Mission Control at Johnson Space Center in Houston, Texas. View on your screen coming from Orion, looking toward the moon. The destination of the Artemis 2 mission. Spacecraft now traveling 2,088 miles per hour. We are 94,868 miles away from the moon, inching ever closer. The crew aboard the spacecraft is still in their midday meal period. We are in a forward loss of signal. We do expect to regain that shortly. These loss of signals, or LOS, are tracked here on the ground. We were able to call up to the crew just before we entered this time frame, letting them know that we would be able to hear from them. They just wouldn't hear from us.
Integrity Houston for toilets.
Go ahead, James.
Hey, Reed, we are working a plan to do another dump prior to the manual piloting DFTO. I'll have more words for you on that shortly, but I wanted to give you a last call for the use of toilet before we get into that. Again, toilet is still no-go for urine use, but I want to give you a last call for fecal use as well.
All right, that sounds good, Jenny. And just to confirm, we can still continue to dump the secondary line right now, correct?
Affirm.
And James, what is preferred for you on the DFTO? You want CAPCAM 3 or you want HHB or both?
Good question, Reed. We do not have the bandwidth currently for HHP, so we'll be using CAPCAM 3.
Okay, sounds good.
Integrity Houston for big picture forward plan for the wastewater dump.
Go ahead.
Hey, Tina, as you know, this is a big issue that we want to work toward resolving. So we are going to set up a wastewater dump on the primary line starting now. And we would like at least one crew member to be looking out the window and reporting what they see. Our intent here is just to have that vent open, and we will leave it open until either we reach a minimum quantity on the tank, we have no flow, or we hit a 3-hour limit.
Hey, James, great plan. The one thing we would add is we've got some secondary dumps either in work or just finishing. So in order to assess what's coming out of the primary, we recommend waiting a few minutes for that. We can let you know when it looks pretty clear, if that sounds okay.
Yeah, Tina, that sounds reasonable. How long do you expect that to take?
All right, the dump just started, and it usually completes within a minute. However, there's usually some secondaries after that, so I would estimate in about 3 minutes.
Okay, that sounds great to us. Give us a call in 3 minutes, and we will get started. I also wanted to revise my last and let you know that through further discussion on the ground, we can let you know that while we are performing this vent, the toilet is go for fecal use, so good news there.
Copy.
This is Artemis Mission Control. Here in Houston, Texas, you've got a view of the flight director, Jeff Radigan. To his left is Flight Director Diane Daly. She will be the Flight Director for the Orbit 2 shift, as the Orbit 1 shift is now transitioning off console. Down to the bottom of your screen, at the very bottom, is Jackie Mahaffey. She is the cruise trainer for this mission, and she'll be serving as Capcom. And to her left, CSA astronaut and Artemis 2 backup Jenny Gibbons. She's been the Capcom for the Orbit 1 shift, speaking with the astronauts. You just heard them discussing the next wastewater dump opportunity. This has been something the team has been troubleshooting today. They're looking to empty this line that they anticipate or they understand was blocked by ice. The spacecraft is still in a good configuration, and this doesn't have any mission or lunar flyby impacts. We are now 3 days, 2 hours, 24 minutes into the Artemis 2 mission. However, we are referring to this day as Flight Day 4. The crew is now 94,334 miles away from the moon, which you can see there. They are ever growing closer and ever growing farther away from our home planet, 187,185 miles and counting. As the Orbit 1 and Orbit 2 teams continue to conduct their handover procedures, I'll also be handing over the Public Affairs Console to my friend and colleague, Anna Schneider. Really enjoyed being with you here today. The Orbit 1 shift will be back tomorrow, and of course, our astronauts are still working throughout the day, and our stream is still live 24/7 on NASA's YouTube.
All right, Houston, we are fairly quiescent here. Let us know when you start the vent.
It's in work, Reed. Integrity crew, the vent valve has opened.
All right, we'll keep monitoring, but right now we see no flow at all.
Copy.
We heard one little chug deep down beneath us, and now we are getting some spurts with some increasing force, so let's just keep open here.
Copy. Great news, and we're seeing some flow on our side too. Thank you, Reed.
Yeah, you got four crew members rooting for Max Blizzard, and we have a good view out the window. It looks like it was when we started the mission, so that's a good sign.
Great news. I wanted to keep the mic so you could hear a clap there. Integrity crew, we're maneuvering to the attitude for manual piloting.
Okay, integrity copies. Houston Integrity, just let us know when we're go to start the manual piloting DFTO2 step 1.
All right, Integrity crew, you are go to start the manual piloting DFTO. We are going to come on board with CAPCAM 3. And when you perform this DFTO, we are happy to take 10 degrees rotation in all axes instead of 15 if you like. We will also happily accept all pilots that we have time for. Let us know how she handles.
Okay, we like the sound of all that. Copy 10 degrees, so we'll aim for that to speed this up a bit so we can get more inputs.
We appreciate it. Thanks, Jeremy. And crew, we're on board with you through CAPCAM 3.
This is Artemis Mission Control. The Orbit 1 and 2 teams are currently in their handover, and the crew aboard Orion has stepped into their manual piloting procedures. This may look like a familiar view. We saw it just after launch when the crew was conducting the proximity operations demonstration. That was NASA astronaut Victor Glover, the pilot of the spacecraft, manually commanding Orion.
Ready for a quick waste dump update.
We'll take it.
Hey, Jams, now we have about 10% of the time we see a full blizzard, and then it dies down to a flurry, and then it picks up to a full blizzard again. It's going about blizzard about once every maybe 30 seconds, but it is very dynamic. It's not just one continual send, but it's beautiful, and we're watching the tank quantity go down, so hopefully it's looking good.
That's super helpful for us to know. Thanks, Reed. We're still watching it.
And Houston Integrity, it's not in the procedure, so we just want to double check with. We're going to do this DFTO in DAP mode 2.
Affirm, DAP 2.
Heard some words from Commander Reed Wiseman discussing the wastewater dump currently ongoing. We had a view of that from outside the cabin. We are back inside Orion right now, preparing for the manual piloting demonstration. On the left side of your screen is Canadian Space Agency astronaut Jeremy Hansen, and to his right, NASA astronaut Christina Cook. During this demonstration, the crew will be able to manually pilot Orion once again and test its 6 degree of freedom and 3 degree of freedom. If you look closely in the background, you can see NASA astronaut and pilot Victor Glover filming part of this demonstration. Artemis 2 is MET 3 days, 2 hours, 38 minutes into its flight, and we have just crossed the 2/3 mark on the way to the moon. Now 187,633 miles away from our home planet of Earth, 93,890 miles away from the moon.
right, and just giving you some handling qualities here for the yaw. Everything was nominal. I noted that with this orb mount, it does have some play in it as we knew, and so just applying some downward force to try and make sure you don't get coupling is required, but that's fine, that's workable. And then we had a little bit of coupling and roll, in both in the same direction on that one. So we had about 4 degrees of roll through the 20 degrees of yaw.
Copy all.
Okay, and we're still just completing the pitch maneuvers, but we're not picking up any coupling for the pitch. And the vehicle is very responsive at nulling out the half degree per second. It's almost instantaneous.
Copy.
Again, the manual piloting demo is beginning aboard the Orion spacecraft, and as the Orbit 1 and 2 teams hand off, I am going to hand off to my friend and colleague, Anna Schneider. She will be carrying through the rest of the manual piloting demo, the rest of the crew's day, and our live stream continues 24/7 on NASA YouTube.
Okay, Houston, for the roll, the only thing I noticed is I had a little coupling in the roll right in yaw, and was able to compensate for that in the roll, or in the roll left. Didn't have any coupling in the yaw. I think we're just getting used to the orb mount too.
Copy all, Jeremy, and we are a minute away from a data rate change. We will have a very brief LOS during that time. I will let you know when we're back with you.
Okay, copy that.
Integrity crew, we're back with you.
Okay, we just finished the 3 DOF maneuvers. The rates all seem the same. The response seemed the same. It is difficult to tell whether you might have some cross-coupling from the RHC or if it's from the vehicle, but we were pretty convinced in the last roll one that the coupling that showed up, which was 4 degrees, was coming from the vehicle and not the RHC.
Copy all, Jeremy. Thank you.
Good evening from Mission Control Houston inside the Artemis Flight Control Room. I'm Anna Schneider with NASA Communications, and the Orbit 2 team of flight controllers has recently come on console and has completed their handover with the Orbit 1 team, who are wrapping up their shift. The Orbit 2 team this evening will be led by NASA Flight Director Diane Daly, and the Capcom or capsule communicator will be Jackie Mahaffey. The crew on board the Orion spacecraft, which you can see.
With the jets intentionally deselected with the left yaw, the rate built up as expected nominally, but it's having a hard time nulling out the rate. So it's almost there now, and we've got 7 degrees of yaw before it nulls the rate.
Copy all. Thank you, Jeremy.
So the vehicle overshot by 7 degrees once it was released from the yaw left, and then it built up very slowly, built up a rate, and it looks like it's trying to take it back to where the RHC was released, but it's overshooting again.
Copy all.
Yeah, and during that maneuver, we haven't maneuvered back to center yet. We developed 5 degrees of roll left and 5 degrees of pitch up. And then when it built up a rate to try and look like it tried to go back to where the RHC was released, it went back to 355 instead of 350. So just to read all that down, we commanded a left yaw until we saw 350 yaw. It went to 343, and then it went back to 355 before it nulled all the rates. And now we'll put one in, and we'll just take it back to 0.
Very good. Thanks, Jeremy.
This is Artemis Mission Control in Houston, Texas. The crew on board the Orion spacecraft named Integrity are currently working through a manual pilot team developmental flight test objective, or DFTO. You can see the crew there on your screen. That's a live look inside the cabin of the Orion spacecraft. On the left-hand side, you can see CSA, or Canadian Space Agency astronaut Jeremy Hansen, and next to him is Christina Cook.
Okay, and now the yaw right is complete, and as expected, took quite a bit of time to build up the rate, but was able to null the rate quickly and accurately.
Copy all.
During this developmental flight test objective, the crew is working to perform several attitude maneuvers to compare 6 degrees of freedom and 3 degrees of freedom attitude control. 6 degrees of freedom refers to the 6 ways that a spacecraft moves. There are 3 translational degrees of freedom.
During the pitch checkout, there is no perceptible change in performance. It's able to build the rate quickly and null it out quickly and accurately.
Excellent, thanks.
Okay, and then for roll in this configuration, the left roll is a little bit slower to build up. The right roll is responsive as per normal.
Copy.
And Jenny, we are going to switch pilots now. This will be myself in the seat and making comments.
Copy, we're following the swap. Thank you.
And currently on your screen, you can see CSA astronaut Jeremy Hansen and NASA astronaut Christina Cook swapping places as they continue through the manual piloting developmental flight test objective. Again, they are performing several different attitude maneuvers to compare 6 degrees of freedom and 3 degrees of freedom attitude control on the spacecraft. 6 degrees of freedom refers to the 6 ways that a spacecraft moves. There are 3 translational degrees of freedom, forward, backward, up and down, and left and right, and 3 rotational degrees of freedom, which are roll, pitch, and yaw. So through this developmental flight test objective, the crew is comparing the standard 6 degrees of freedom to
Integrity Crew Houston, we want to offer up to our pilot, if you want, you can do 5 degrees instead of 10 to move it along a bit quicker. We're looking forward to getting some info for you as a pilot here.
Okay, we copy that.
Currently, NASA astronaut Christina Cook is piloting the spacecraft for this manual piloting DFTO.
That one already had 10 in, so I went ahead and completed all the way back. Standard 6 off behavior, fast ramp up to the DAP speed. There were 2 degrees of roll added in. I did attempt to stop that cross coupling during the roll, during the yaw back, but I didn't get there. So just a little cross coupling there, getting used to the orb mount and its play.
Copy, we follow. Thanks, Christina.
And this is Artemis Mission Control. So through this developmental flight test objective that you're watching them complete on your screen, they are working to compare the standard 6 degrees of freedom to the degraded qualities of 3 degrees of freedom. In that case, it would mean the crew could only control the rotational axes of roll, pitch, and yaw.
Okay, similar behavior with 5. In this instance, there was just a very small amount of roll in that I did try to take out, and with a quick roll pulse, it did take it out. That was just kind of a manual thing that I did, but it was nice to see you could do that if you had unintended coupling going on.
Copy all.
Okay, a similar thing with roll. Roll was definitely the most difficult for me to keep the yaw out coupling naturally, so I just kind of put some manual yaw in to undo the coupling there, but similar 6-off performance.
Excellent. Thank you, Christina. And just for your information, we are comfortable going a little over on this activity. Our schedule allows for it today, and we're getting a lot of good info from you. So we'll have you continue to the end of the DFTO.
Copy. Negligible change in 3 DOF with the yaw.
Copy.
Okay, I'm going to make a comment on the pitch up. There was some roll there. I tried a different technique where I actually kind of held the orb mount at the high end of its play rather than pressing down at the low end since I was pitching up. But I think that actually made it a little bit harder to keep the roll coupling out. So for pitch down, I'll go ahead and hold it at the bottom of its play. So in this, again, in the direction, in this case, of the pitch.
Copy all.
Okay, great performance in pitch, similar to the 6-off.
Copy.
Okay, on that one I kind of went the other direction at first, but was able to remove some yaw oscillations. I think the orb mount with roll, I was just playing with some compensation there, like kind of actively using muscles to keep yaw in or from going. Mixed results, but it was good to try some of that actively.
We like it. Thank you.
All right, Jenny, on this one, given that when we did this, he had an overshoot, which was then overcorrected 5 degrees in the direction he came from, I wanted to try the method of actually overshooting on purpose to try to get back to the 5 degree, so we'll see if that works.
Thank you. We're following along.
And Houston, we have some Earth and Moon viewers here who are putting in requests for different motions so that they can see things in the window.
We're seeing them in the camera views, and we're enjoying it. Look at those scientists go.
Boom, 5 degrees.
Boom.
All right, Jenny, and that one, as expected, had a slow start, but then finished right when release happened, and was able to build up the full rate eventually.
Copy.
Okay, and as expected with those specific jets deselected, no negative or no clear difference in pitch.
We copy.
Okay, and on that one, I released at 5 degrees, and 2-degree overshoot. I'm holding the orb, I'm holding against the play of the orb mount that is inward to my body and forward or down while putting in the roll, and so it takes a little bit of kind of like counteracting muscle movement for that, but I think I had pretty decent lack of coupling.
Copy.
Okay, a little more roll for the peanut gallery.
They love it.
All right, Houston, thanks for your patience. We had to see the full moon and the Earth at the same time, which was just accomplished. Now we're going to be rolling back.
We understand and approve.
All right, Jenny, I definitely have some stuff to report for that one. Going back, which was the roll left, 2 things. The pitch coupling that you saw, I do think was due to an input on the RHC, but the yaw, I don't think was, because I actively tried to take out the yaw, and I felt myself having to go out of the detent in the other direction to start affecting that yaw motion that you were seeing. So I think that might have been because of it was difficult for it to compensate potentially, and I think that one might not have been because of inputs at the hand controller.
Copy all. GNC agrees.
Rockin'. We see ourselves complete with the manual piloting, and we'll continue and close out the procedure if you agree.
All right, Christina, we totally agree. And while we have you, we just wanted to give you one item for Jeremy's timeline. We noticed a conflict with his PPC and the filming for exercise and day in the life. So we just wanted to let him know that he can do the PPC early. We'll be ready to support that, and be mindful of when the filming starts at his discretion. Thanks.
Crew copies all. Thanks.
Our pleasure. And with that, I will pass you on to the very capable Jackie Mahaffey.
This is Artemis Mission Control in Houston, Texas. The crew has recently wrapped up their manual piloting developmental flight test objective.
Thank you.
And the Capcom, or capsule communicators here in Mission Control, have also handed over as the Orbit 1 and Orbit 2 teams have completed their handover. So the oncoming Capcom for this shift will be Jackie Mahaffey, and she took over from Ginny Gibbons. Jenny was a backup CSA astronaut for this mission, and then Jackie Mahaffey was the crew training lead for Artemis 2. Now that the manual piloting flight test objective is complete, the crew is going to continue on to other scheduled activities for the day. So coming up on the timeline, NASA astronaut Christina Cook and CSA, or Canadian Space Agency astronaut Jeremy Hansen, both have scheduled crew exercise. Each of the crew members has a block of exercise scheduled each day to maintain their health and fitness during their trips to space on the Orion spacecraft.
For wastewater dump.
Go ahead.
Hey, Jackie. Every once in a while, we do hear a little like thud in the spacecraft, followed by a little plume of snowflakes. So there probably is just ice chugging through those lines, and we are still getting little intermittent blizzards. You probably see it on the solar array cameras, but it is still just going. It's dwindling. And then if you do see the volume pick up in the next over the next 5 minutes, there's going to be a few secondary dumps as well.
Reed, we copy all. Thank you for the insight.
And this is Mission Control. You heard some additional...
And confirm you all have secured cab cam 3.
Negative. Stand by. Reed, and to clarify, we are interpreting that as you would like us to turn off cab 3.
Yeah, that is a firm.
We will let you know when that's in place.
Okay, copy.
This is Artemis Mission Control. You're now seeing an exterior view of the Orion spacecraft. This view is coming to you from one of the solar array wing cameras. The Orion spacecraft has 4 solar array wings, and each of those has a camera. And the crew is continuing to work through the remainder of their activities for the day. So in addition to the upcoming exercise for NASA astronaut Christina Cook and CSA, or Canadian Space Agency astronaut Jeremy Hansen, both NASA astronaut Victor Glover and Christina Cook also have a lunar flyby plan review coming up. And this plan review had already been completed earlier in the day by NASA astronaut Reed Wiseman and CSA astronaut Jeremy Hansen. And during this activity, each crew member is reviewing their lunar targeting package, which is the primary tool guiding crew observations during the lunar flyby on flight day 6. This package consists of 2 key components: the lunar geography review and the lunar targeting plan.
Integrity Houston, we have only an external view of Orion.
Okay, sounds good. We'll probably, you were bandwidth limited earlier. I don't know if you want HHP in a little while. We can happily set that up. And next question is, if you could ask flight, is there an estimate of toilet coming back functional for urine? That'll just change some of our next steps. If not, we'll continue on CCUs.
Reed, our goal for the toilet is to vent down to approximately 10%, and then we need to have a couple of discussions here on the ground, so you can expect a couple of hours before we would potentially give you a go for toilet use.
That is exactly the information we wanted to hear. Thank you so much.
And you just heard some additional communication there between NASA astronaut Reed Wiseman and the Capcom, or capsule communicator here on the ground, Jackie Mahaffey, who you can see there on the bottom of your screen. They were discussing the wastewater dump, which has been taking place, as well as the toilet use. At the beginning of cruise sleep on flight day 3, the ground had performed a routine and regularly scheduled wastewater dump. And during that dump, it was terminated after only dumping 3%. They have since completed an additional wastewater dump just about 30 minutes ago. And the team on the ground is evaluating the status of the toilet on the Orion spacecraft. But in the meantime, the crew has been instructed to continue using CCUs, which are collapsible contingency urinals.
Houston integrity, the DFTO procedure is complete.
Jeremy, we copy, and we will be taking you back to biased tail to sun.
Copy that.
This is Artemis Mission Control. We did have that confirmation that the manual piloting developmental flight test objective is officially complete. They were just completing some cleanup actions on that task, and now they're going to start moving into the remainder of the activities for the day. The Orion spacecraft is also being maneuvered to what is known as biased tail to sun attitude. The Orion spacecraft uses a tail-to-sun attitude as its primary passive or passive safe flight orientation during transit to maintain thermal balance and maximize power generation. Now on your screen you can see a view of the Artemis Real-Time Orbit website, or ARO. And this provides updates on the data and telemetry coming from the Orion spacecraft. So currently the Orion spacecraft and its crew are about 188,000 miles away from Earth, and they have about 92,000 miles between them and the moon. Not too long ago, they did surpass the 2/3 mark as they continue to close in on the moon, and they are expected to make that closest approach and their lunar flyby on flight day 6 coming up on April 6th.
Houston integrity, Jackie, I'm ready for that PPC.
All right, they are dialing you now. Integrity Houston, per Reed's question a few minutes ago about the HHP cam, We do have the bandwidth, and when Jeremy finishes up his conference, we would be happy to come back on board. Second item, maybe Christina can help answer this. We were wondering at the DUs, how was the audio volume-wise, clarity-wise from the speaker unit?
Houston, we copy the question, and we will get back to you shortly. Houston, Orion. We dropped the call, so if you could redial, that'd be great.
In work.
This is Artemis Mission Control in Houston, Texas. You're currently seeing a live view of the Orion spacecraft, which is named Integrity by its crew. The crew currently on board the Orion spacecraft includes NASA astronaut Reed Wiseman, who's serving as the commander, NASA astronaut Victor Glover serving as the pilot, and the mission specialists are NASA astronaut Christina Cook and CSA or Canadian Space Agency astronaut Jeremy Hansen. The crew is currently awake and working through several different activities. Currently on the timeline, NASA astronaut Victor Glover is working on his lunar flyby plan review. And during this activity, the crew members are reviewing their lunar targeting package, which is the primary tool which will guide crew observations during the lunar flyby on flight day 6. Throughout the day, each of the crew members will have a chance to review that plan and ask any questions that they may have ahead of that lunar flyby. And so NASA astronaut Reed Wiseman and CSA astronaut Jeremy Hansen have already completed that flyby plan review, and then coming up a little bit later on the timeline, NASA astronaut Christina Cook will also have the opportunity to review that plan. The lunar targeting package that they are reviewing consists of 2 key components, the lunar geography review and the lunar targeting plan. The lunar geography review helps astronauts study major lunar features in advance of the flyby and learn how to orient themselves during the flyby, while the lunar targeting plan provides a detailed timeline of observation targets, background science context, and specific instructions for imaging and verbal descriptions. NASA astronaut Christina Cook is also currently preparing and working on her daily exercise using the flywheel exercise device on board the Orion spacecraft. Each of the crew members has a block of time each day to complete that exercise, and the flywheel is about the size of an extra large shoebox, and it can support a variety of different exercises from aerobic to resistive exercise. And so after Christina completes her exercise block, CSA or Canadian Space Agency astronaut Jeremy Hansen will then complete his exercise as well, and then NASA astronaut Reed Wiseman will complete his exercise. NASA astronaut Victor Glover completed his exercise block earlier in the day prior to their midday meal. Towards the end of the crew day, CSA astronaut will also have a public affairs event with the Canadian Space Agency before the full crew goes into their private medical conference, which is a daily conference between the crew and their medical teams here on the ground. And then they will have a private conference with the flight director, who currently on console is NASA Flight Director Diane Daly, supporting the Orbit 2 shift. And then the crew will transition into their pre-sleep period, during which they perform some hygiene activities and also have a chance to eat their dinner before they prepare for sleep. And then once they go to sleep, that will round out the Flight Day 4 activities. And there on your screen, you are seeing a live look inside the Artemis flight control room here in Mission Control Houston. On the upper right-hand portion of the screen is the flight director console, so that flight director currently is Diane Daly, who is serving as the Orbit 2 flight directors throughout the mission. There are 3 shifts or orbits who provide 24/7 coverage and support to the crew and the Orion spacecraft for the Artemis 2 mission.
Houston, integrity, AGA readings when you're ready.
We are ready, and also arrays and ARS are in the planned config for exercise.
We copy, go for exercise, thank you. CO2, 1.6. O2, 19.3. Pressure, 13.8. Temperature, 75.3.
Houston copies, and as a reminder, we are staying in a 2 ARS scrubber config for this exercise period, and we'll definitely want the intermittent, the scheduled AGA reading in between the 2 runs and at the end. If it's looking good, we're talking about whether we might want to stay in that config through the end of reads exercise.
We copy, will do.